So section 3 is kind of a big bluesy bending section, but Marty tends to do some really cool stuff with bends where, I don't know, I find that he bends notes that a lot of other guitar players don't tend to bend. So we'll check out what's going on here. So we're coming out of basically a bend on the 16th fret from the last section. We were holding out a half-step bend. Now, he actually frets the 17th fret on the high E from here. So he gets 17, 16, hammer on from 14 to 16, and then a half-step bend, and he brings it back down for 2 more notes on the 16th fret. Now there's 2 cool bends in a row here. So he bends 19 on the high E, up a whole step, and as he brings it down, he backs up a fret to 18 and also bends that a whole step. Brings it down, and lands on 19 on the B string twice with a ton of vibrato again. And then this is kind of a weird lick from here. So what we're getting after we land here, so hammer on from 17 to 19, and then without picking, you're doing basically a step and a half bend and bringing it back down. Now, hammering on and pulling off 17, 19, 17 on the B, down to 18 on the G, and then a hammer on back 17 to 19 on the B. Similar rhythm, but backing up a half step. And we're going 16 and 17 on the B, still down to 18 on the G, and then back up 16 and 17 on the B. And then the last part is another kind of funky one. 14 and 15 on the B, down to 17 on the G, and back up to 14 on the B. And then 17, 16, 14 on the G, and a bend with some funky vibrato on that same note, 16. Now, this is one section I had a little bit of a tough time trying to figure out after I listened to it. I slowed it way down. The phrasing is a little bit funky. So the first 2 are actually pretty much right on the beat. So if you're counting... But instead of waiting and playing the next phrase exactly the same, he kind of rushes the next note, so the first one is before the beat. So slow it down, try to listen for it in the song, but that's the toughest thing, is getting the timing of that phrasing. Okay, so this section, believe it or not, is actually fairly straightforward with the exception of that very fast last lick that he plays. But we're sticking mostly in the F-sharp minor pentatonic or F-sharp blues scale for this one. Coming out of section 3, we're already on the 16th fret of the G. You're going to pick it twice and then bend the second one up a whole step. 14 on the high E, and then you're bending 17 on the B a whole step. And then just kind of a descending F-sharp blues lick, which is 14 on the high E, 17 to 14 on the B, and then 17, 16, 14, and another pull-off from 16 to 14 on the G. And then he kind of mimics this lick, but with a few higher notes. Jumps up to 17 on the high E, bends it up a whole step, and then brings it back down. And then hammer on, pull off 14, 17, 14, and down to 17 on the B string. And then same lick almost exactly from the B string. Hammer on 14, 17, 14, and then you're down to 17 on the G. So we've got and then you're going 17, 16, 14. Bend the 16th fret up a whole step. And then 14, 16, 14. And this is a little funky. He pulls off from 16 to 14 on the D, down to 16 on the A. When he jumps back up, he grabs the 15th fret on the D string, does a half step bend, brings it down, and then right before he starts ascending, he kind of pulls it up a little bit. And then just an ascending lick, which is strictly pentatonic. 16 on the D, 14, 16 on the G, 14, 17 on the B, and then you're landing on 14 on the high E. And then this kind of crazy 16th note lick. Which when you break it down is not terrible, but he just flies through it. So you're hammering 16 to 19 on the B, on the E, sorry. So 16, 19, 16, 14. Then 15 on the B, back up to 14 on the high E. And then you're doing 2 pull-offs in a row from 16 to 14 on the high E. Back to 15 on the B and 14 on the high E. And then that last bit is 19 to 14, pull off, down to 15 on the B, and back up to 14. And it's straight 16th notes. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and then at the end, he does a descending diminished lick from the 19th fret. So we're pulling off 19 to 16 on the high E, 18 on the B, 19 to 16 on the G, 18 on the D, which is a pretty standard diminished arpeggio. Brings it up a half step, but jumps to the G string on the 14th fret. And comes out of it with this basically funky bend where he holds 17 on the B string and bends the 16th fret on the G up a whole step. And that kind of fades into Dave's solo, which comes in over the top of it. So that whole end piece, real quick. I probably should have mentioned that diminished arpeggio does slow down a little bit. Everything else is 16th notes, and then those are more like quarter note triplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Pretty much wraps up the Lucretia solo. A couple of things to keep in mind. This solo, I would really try to learn note for note. That's not always the case. There's certain parts of some solos that you can kind of fake your way through. And even this one, there may be 1 or 2 notes that you can kind of gloss over. But almost every note is important in this solo. It's very lyrical, very melodic. There's a lot of cool bends and a lot of cool arpeggio runs too. So do your best to really try to get all the notes correct in this solo. You know, it's in F sharp minor, like we mentioned a few times. So if you keep that in mind, it'll kind of give you a framework for most of the positions. You know, there's a lot of stuff up here in the 14th position where you would expect to be playing for F sharp minor. He also does a lot of arpeggio stuff. So keep in mind some of those F sharp minor and in one case F sharp major arpeggios that he outlines, and the E major too. So sometimes it seems like he's just pulling notes out of the middle of nowhere all over the neck, but if you can kind of picture the chords that underlie what's going on, that are behind him while he's soloing, like an F sharp down to an E, it makes it a little bit easier to understand why he's choosing the notes he is throughout that solo. So you've got that, you've got your arpeggios, you've got the fact that you're in F sharp minor, and then the last big thing to really nail the Marty Friedman kind of vibe, especially from the Rust in Peace album, are his bends and vibrato. A lot of guys tend to do more standard bends, just lots of stuff out of the pentatonic scale, standard whole note and half, or whole step and half step bends. But Marty does a lot of really cool stuff where, he'll bend a note whole step, then he'll back up a half step, but bend that up a whole step. So to really cop his sound and his vibe on this solo, you want to make sure you're getting the right notes, that you're bending from the correct fret, and that you're bending the correct distance. He does some even step and a half bends, some of those real big ones. And that really wide, aggressive vibrato will help you cop his sound too. So as best you can, keep an eye out, F sharp minor, look out for those arpeggio shapes, nail those bends, and really, get that really wide, aggressive vibrato going. You should be able to nail this one down pretty well. In addition, if you guys are digging what you hear, leave some comments down below. Let me know if there's other stuff you want to see moving forward. There's definitely more videos on the way, some general music theory kind of stuff, some other songs, maybe some full song playthroughs. And if there's certain solos or songs that you guys want to hear, comment, leave me a message, let me know. But definitely subscribe to Real World Guitar. Check it out. And then in addition, you can check out my own website. It's www.bjknights.com. And yeah, if you guys, are digging what you're hearing, I would appreciate hearing from you guys. Subscribe, and I'll see you out there next time.